Imagine a world where the fiercest warriors of the north, driven by burning shame and a thirst for revenge, set sail across uncharted waters to strike at the heart of a mighty empire. Picture the clash of steel, the roar of flames, and the shock of cultures colliding in a land few had ever dared to tread. This is not just a story of battle. It's a tale of vengeance, ambition, and the unbreakable will of the Vikings. In the year 844, they faced a crushing defeat at Seville, a shining city of Islamic Al-Andalus. Their ships were torched, their warriors slaughtered, and their pride dragged through the dust. But the Vikings never forget, and they never forgive. 15 years later, in 859, they returned. Not to Spain, but to the distant shores of Africa itself, to settle the score and carve their name into history. Today we're sailing south, past the legendary Pillars of Hercules, to a land no Norseman was ever meant to see, Morocco. This is the battle where the Vikings took their revenge on the Islamic Empire. By the mid-9th century, the Viking world was at its absolute peak. From the misty shores of Ireland to the distant waters of the Caspian Sea, their sails struck terror and wonder into the hearts of all who saw them. Western Europe had been raided time and time again. Monasteries were reduced to ash. Kings were forced to pay massive ransoms, and rivers became pathways for their relentless conquests. The Vikings were unstoppable, their longships slicing through the waves like wooden lightning bolts, driven by raw ambition and a hunger for glory. In 859, a massive fleet, perhaps 60 ships strong, gathered along the Atlantic coast, likely somewhere in France or northern Spain. Leading this armada might have been legendary figures like Bjorn Ironside and Hasting, said to be sons of the infamous Ragnar Lodbrok. These men had already left their mark on the Mediterranean years before, and to them, the world was nothing but an endless sea of opportunity waiting to be seized. Their journey south was as bold as it was dangerous. The Vikings first descended on Galicia, a region in northern Spain, where they raided the coasts of Asturias and forced the Christian kings to hand over whatever treasures they could scrape together. From there they struck Lisbon, a city then under the control of Muslim Al-Andalus, showing the world that no faith or empire was beyond their reach. Pushing further south, they sacked Cadiz, and then, driven by either greed or some wild divine madness, they turned their sails toward the narrow passage that marked the very edge of Europe, the Strait of Gibraltar. Crossing Gibraltar wasn't just a matter of geography, it was like stepping into a myth. Beyond those waters lay the unknown, a place where the sun seemed to set on the edge of the world, an Islamic frontier of endless deserts and towering mountains. This land was ruled by fierce Berber dynasties who swore spiritual allegiance to the mighty Abbasid Caliphate in the east. The Vikings had already raided the lands of Christendom, the Byzantine Empire, and the Slavic territories. But to strike at the western gate of Islam was to challenge a completely new world, one they had never faced before. Their target wasn't the grand cities of Fez or Marrakesh, though. Instead, they set their sights on Nekor, a small but wealthy Berber kingdom tucked away in the Rif Mountains, near what we now call Al-Hoceima in modern Morocco. Founded in the early 8th century, Nekor had grown into a key hub for trade, linking the vast Sahara, Al-Andalus, and the Mediterranean Sea. Its ruler, Said ibn Salih al-Mumin, led a people known for their fierce independence and deep devotion to Islam. But even the strongest faith can be caught off guard, and the people of Nekor were about to face a storm they never saw coming. The Vikings arrived by sea, swift and silent, like shadows in the dawn. For the people of Nekor, there was no warning, no sign of danger on the horizon. They had heard whispers of the Magius, the fire-worshipping raiders from the north who had struck at Al-Andalus years before. But no one truly believed these demons would dare to cross the sea, and set foot on African soil. Yet, on one fateful autumn morning, the horizon turned to flame. 60 longships glided into Moroccan waters, their oars pounding the calm Mediterranean like the heartbeat of a raging storm. From the decks of their ships, the Vikings gazed upon a sight no northerner had ever witnessed, the golden ochre cliffs of Africa rising from the sea. It was a moment of awe, but for Nekor, it marked the start of 8 harrowing days of destruction. The Viking fleet made landfall near the Bay of Al-Hoceima, at the edge of the rugged Rif Mountains. The coastline offered little in the way of defense. No towering fortresses, no ready garrisons, just a handful of quiet fishing villages scattered along the shore. Once on land, the Norsemen split into smaller war bands, following the rivers and valleys that snaked inland toward Nekor. The Berbers were taken completely by surprise. King Said ibn Salih was reportedly still in the capital when the first frantic scouts arrived, reporting smoke rising along the coast. Thinking it was just a minor raid, he sent a small force to drive the intruders away. But the enemy kept coming, their numbers growing with every passing hour. Every path from the sea seemed to bring more warriors, clad in chainmail, wielding broad axes and carrying around shields painted with fierce beasts. The Vikings moved with terrifying speed. They were masters of river warfare, traveling light and striking hard. Their axes cleaved through the Berber defenders before they could even form proper lines of resistance. Villages along their path were torched to the ground, their people dragged away as slaves to be sold in distant markets. Within just a few days, the Norsemen reached Nekor itself. The capital, though modest in size, was rich from trade, a treasure trove waiting to be claimed. Later chronicles would describe how the Magius fell upon Nekor like a pack of wolves descending on a helpless flock. The defenders fought with courage, but they were outnumbered and thrown into chaos by the sudden assault. The Vikings stormed the walls, plundered the mosques, and set the bustling markets ablaze. King Said was forced to flee into the surrounding mountains, gathering what few survivors he could in a desperate bid to fight back, a counterattack that would never come. For 8 long days, Nekor burned. The Vikings looted everything of value they could find: gold, silk, ivory, and most importantly, slaves, who were the most profitable cargo for their ships. Stories say they captured countless men and women, later selling them in the ports of Al-Andalus and the Balearic Islands for hefty sums. The wealth they seized was staggering, though exact figures are lost to time. Some accounts suggest they carried off treasures worth tens of thousands of dollars in today's money, though we can only imagine the true scale of their haul. But even as they reveled in their victory, the tide began to turn against them. Word of the raid spread like wildfire across the Muslim world. Governors in Al-Andalus and nearby Berber tribes quickly raised fleets to trap the invaders before they could escape with their spoils. As the Vikings began their retreat to the coast, weighed down by treasure and slowed by their captives, Berber riders career. Some Viking warbands found themselves cut off and surrounded in the narrow mountain passes, where they were wiped out to the last man. Others struggled to reach the shore, only to see enemy sails gathering on the horizon. When the longships finally pushed back into the open sea, the hunters had become the hunted. Muslim ships from Almeria and Tunis engaged them in fierce naval clashes off the Moroccan coast. Several Viking vessels were set ablaze or captured, their warriors either killed or taken as slaves themselves. The survivors fled northward, their once mighty fleet now shattered and bleeding, scattering across the waves in a desperate bid to make it home. For Nekor, the devastation was total. Its mosques lay in ruins, their sacred spaces desecrated. Its markets, once alive with the hum of trade, were silent, reduced to charred rubble. Its people were either scattered to the winds or bound in chains, destined for faraway lands. The once thriving capital of the Riyadh Mountains lay smoldering under the harsh African sun, its river choked with ash and the wreckage of a broken city. The physical destruction was immense. Homes, shops, and places of worship reduced to nothing over a span of just 8 days. But from those ashes rose a legend that would echo through Arabic chronicles for centuries to come. The Vikings were no longer seen as mere men, but as magus, fire-worshipping demons from the sea, embodiments of chaos who had dared to strike at the very western gate of Islam. This raid on Nekor wasn't just a battle, it was a statement. The Vikings had traveled over 2,000 kilometers from their northern homelands, crossing seas and straits, to exact their revenge for the humiliation at Seville 15 years earlier. They had struck at a land few in their world even knew existed, leaving behind a scar that would not soon fade. Though their fleet was battered and many of their warriors lost, the raid cemented their reputation as fearless raiders who knew no boundaries. For the people of Nekor, the memory of those 8 days of fire would linger as a haunting reminder of the fragility of peace, even in a land so far from the cold northern seas. Yet, this was not the end of the Vikings' story in the Mediterranean. Their thirst for adventure and conquest would drive them to return again and again, seeking new lands to raid and new enemies to face. And for the Islamic world, the raid on Nekor was a wake-up call, a sign that even their distant frontiers were not safe from the long ships of the north. The clash of these two worlds, one of ice and fjords, the other of desert and faith, created ripples that would be felt for generations. So, as we look back on this incredible moment in history, we're reminded of the sheer audacity of the Vikings, who turned a crushing defeat into a daring act of vengeance, sailing into the unknown to reclaim their honor. What other stories of their incredible journeys await us? Stick around, because there's so much more to uncover about these warriors of the sea.